The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning to you. It is 5 a.m. on this Tuesday. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher. All right, thanks, Kev. Now to a developing story. 2 people hospitalized after they were shot outside of the Valley Plaza Mall last night. 17's Chris Burton is at the scene in central Bakersfield with the latest on this shooting. Chris, what can you tell us?
Well, Maddie, good morning. It's quiet here this morning, deceptively quiet, a change from the terror and panic of last night. Now, Bakersfield police are still investigating the shooting as of this morning, but here's what we know so far.
Shoppers were wrapping up their errands and mall employees were ready to head home at the end of another normal day at Valley Plaza Mall Monday. And then, chaos.
We're getting reports of a shooting in the parking structure in between JCPenney's and Forever 21 south side of the building. Confirm is it clear for medical aid to move in.
Just before 7:30 p.m., shots rang out in this parking structure near Forever 21. Bakersfield police confirm when officers arrived on scene, they found 2 victims of the shooting. Both were transported to local hospitals. Inside the mall, first confusion and then terror.
Security guard is running, like this, running. So what happened? I'm shooting over there. I'm scared. My husband, my son is over there. Everybody's scared.
Employees and customers hunkered in lockdown in the mall and nearby establishments. Those who had parked in the parking structure were allowed to access their cars around 9 p.m.
Well, as of this morning, we don't yet know who the victims were or what their condition is now. There was speculation that a mall security guard was one of the 2 wounded. Mall management has confirmed to us that that is not the case and no mall security guards were involved in the incident. Now, there also have been no arrests made in this case. BPD is asking anyone with any information to contact them. That number to call, 327-7111. For now, live in Bakersfield, Chris Burton, 17 News.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. A vigil was held last night in Delano, Kern County's second largest city, a city ravaged by gun violence with nearly 30 homicides still unsolved. The vigil took place at Cesar Chavez Park, where 19-year-old Nayeli Carrillo Gonzalez's life was violently cut short while just a freshman at Fresno State and home for winter break on January 2nd, 2020. The gathering took place on the same day that one of the men arrested for her murder made an appearance in court. The arrests are one of the reasons why Pastor David Vivas Jr. organized the memorial and invited the family of other violent crimes.
My message to the community is, if you know something, call us. You may just have a small sliver of information, but that might be the missing piece to the puzzle that the police department needs to put the case together, identify who the perpetrator or the suspects are, and to make arrests and bring justice for the family.
21-year-old Jonathan Gutierrez of Bakersfield, one of the 3 men arrested last week in connection to Nayeli's death, had a hearing yesterday, but it was postponed to March 21st. He remains in custody with no bail. 18-year-old Kevin Gonzalez of McFarland and 18-year-old Alexander Carrillo of Bakersfield were also arrested in connection to Gonzalez's death.
In your 17 Crime Watch, 1 student was stabbed and another arrested during a fight yesterday at Shafter High School. According to Kern High School District officials, it happened after school. The wounded student was taken to a local hospital. No word on the victim's condition. The other student involved was arrested. The district says this is an ongoing investigation and it is determined the stabbing was an isolated situation and no other students were in danger.
We are now rounding out 3 weeks of war between Russia and Ukraine in one of the largest attacks on a European nation since World War II, as 4 attempts at peace talks failed between both countries in recent weeks.
After Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to Poland, the Biden administration is signaling even more diplomacy from the commander-in-chief. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington with the latest.
Good morning, Alex, Maddie. Multiple sources tell NBC News President Biden could travel to Europe in a few weeks. Details aren't finalized, but President Biden would focus on the war in Ukraine and reassuring allies in the region. From striking an apartment building with sleeping civilians inside to hitting a Ukrainian military base, Russian forces continue their relentless attacks.
It certainly appears as if the Russians are broadening their target set.
The U.S. is working to get $200 million in supplies to Ukrainian forces fast. Defense officials say the country's resistance so far has frustrated Russian President Vladimir Putin.
He clearly has more than a message in mind here. He clearly has the occupation of Ukraine in mind.
U.S. leaders are concerned Russia is desperate, reaching out for military and economic aid from China. Chinese leaders call it disinformation. The State Department warns assisting Russia could be costly for them.
We will not allow any country to compensate Russia for its losses.
As Ukrainians flee to safety, Ukraine's president is preparing to address Congress in a virtual meeting Wednesday.
It will be a privilege for us to hear from this champion of democracy.
President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to again plea for a no-fly zone or fighter jets.
I believe that we're going to end up in a point where we have to basically go toe-to-toe to some version with Russia anyway. Russia is the one, let's be clear, they're the ones escalating this fight.
The White House has focused on sending other defensive weapons instead. A presidential visit to Europe could follow in the coming weeks. Only lawmakers on Capitol Hill will attend President Zelensky's virtual speech in person Wednesday. There will be a live stream for public viewing. In Washington, I'm Bree Jackson for 17 News.
5:08 is our time now, and at least 2 people are killed and dozens more are hurt following a gas explosion at a Mexican resort yesterday. According to Mexican authorities, a gas tank exploded in the kitchen area at the Cool Beach restaurant on Mexico's Caribbean coast. 2 of the restaurant's employees were killed and at least 18 people were hurt, including 3 customers and 15 staff members. 8 of those people who were hurt have been released from hospitals. The other 10 are still in the hospital.
The U.S. State Department is lowering its travel advisory to Mexico. It moved the travel advisory to level 3, which advises Americans to reconsider travel. Mexico had been at a level 4, which advises against traveling to the country altogether. The State Department says there are high levels of crime and kidnapping risks in some Mexican states. This is a separate warning from the CDC travel health notice for Mexico, which warns of high COVID transmission.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.